Imagine a crowded room. People are standing around, holding their coffees, making small talk, and suddenly, a specific person brings up your name. They launch into their usual, heavily rehearsed story about how terrible you are. They expect the group to nod in agreement. They expect the crowd to gasp in shock and validate their victimhood. But instead, a very awkward, incredibly heavy silence falls over the circle. The people listening aren't nodding anymore. They are exchanging concerned, sideways glances with each other. They are looking at the person speaking, and instead of seeing a victim, they are seeing someone who is completely and utterly obsessed. Without saying a single word, the entire room is collectively thinking the exact same thing. Why are you still talking about this person? You sound completely unhinged. I need you to grab a cup of coffee and really tune into this conversation, because the smear campaign that was designed to completely bury your reputation has just mutated into something entirely different. The people who were originally turned against you have started to wake up, and they are currently looking at your enemy like they are an absolute psycho. We need to break down the psychology of what I call the smear campaign overdose, and exactly why toxic people are currently collapsing under the weight of their own lies. When a manipulator first loses access to you, they go on a massive PR tour. They run to everyone who will listen, spinning a frantic, highly emotional story about how you betrayed them, how you went crazy, and how they barely survived you. In the beginning, this tactic usually works. People have a natural tendency to believe the person who cries the loudest. But a toxic person has a fatal flaw. They do not know when to stop. They get addicted to the sympathy. They get addicted to the attention they receive when they play the victim. So, they keep talking about you. They talk about you weeks later. They talk about you months later. They monitor your social media, screenshot your updates, and send them to mutual friends with long, frantic paragraphs trying to prove that you are secretly miserable. And this is exactly where their entire operation spectacularly derails. Normal, healthy human beings do not obsess over people they hate. If a normal person escapes a truly toxic situation, they are relieved. They move on. They focus on their own healing. They do not spend their Tuesday afternoons desperately trying to convince everyone in town that their ex-friend or ex-partner is a monster. When the people around your enemy watch them bring up your name out of absolutely nowhere for the 50th time, a massive psychological shift happens. The audience stops analyzing your character, and they start analyzing theirs. The mutual friends start asking very dangerous, logical questions. They start thinking, if this person is so terrified of you, why are they constantly checking your page? If you were so terrible to them, why won't they just let you go? The toxic person crossed the invisible line from looking like a survivor to looking like a relentless, targeted stalker. And it gets even worse for them, because keeping up a massive web of lies requires an exhausting amount of mental capacity. It requires perfect memory. When you tell the truth, you only have to remember one version of the story. But when you are running a smear campaign, you have to tailor the lie to fit the specific audience. They told person A that you stole money from them. They told person B that you were incredibly jealous of them. They told person C that you completely abandoned them when they needed you most. But eventually, person A, person B, and person C are going to end up in the exact same room. They are going to compare notes. The lies are currently bleeding into each other. The timelines are completely contradicting. The toxic person is literally tripping over their own tongue, trying to backtrack and cover up the holes in a story that was completely fabricated to begin with. The people around them are catching the inconsistencies, and the credibility of the manipulator is dropping straight to absolute zero. I want you to look at the profound, terrifying brilliance of God's strategy in your life right now. When this smear campaign first started, your human instinct screamed at you to defend yourself. You wanted to post receipts. You wanted to call those mutual friends and scream your side of the story. You begged God to vindicate you, and you were probably incredibly frustrated when the Holy Spirit commanded you to stay entirely silent. You thought your silence was giving them permission to ruin your life. You didn't realize that God was actually giving them enough rope to completely tangle themselves in a knot. God knew that if you jumped into the mud to defend yourself, you would look just as chaotic as they did. The world wouldn't be able to tell the difference between the abuser and the victim. So, God told you to step completely out of the frame. He had you focus on your healing. He had you focus on your business, your peace, and your physical health. You became completely, beautifully boring to the drama. You went totally radio silent. And because you disappeared, the contrast became absolutely blinding. The outside world is currently looking at a split screen. On one side of the screen, they see the toxic person, erratic, angry, obsessively talking about you, changing their story, and looking completely manic. On the other side of the screen, they see you, drinking your water, minding your own business, never saying a bad word about anyone, and quietly glowing up. You didn't have to hire a PR team to clear your name. The sheer insanity of their obsession cleared your name for you. Do you realize the level of panic this is causing them? A manipulator's entire ego relies on their ability to control the narrative. They can feel the room shifting. They can feel their friends pulling away. They notice that when they bring up your name now, people suddenly change the subject or make an excuse to leave the room. They know that the crowd has caught on, and they are suffocating under the immense pressure of their own exposure. They are terrified because they have absolutely no idea what to do next. They played their absolute best cards. They used their loudest megaphone, and they still ended up looking like the fool, while you ended up looking like royalty. So, what is your posture right now, while their empire of lies collapses? You do the exact same thing you have been doing. You hold your total, absolute peace. Do not reach out to the mutual friends who are suddenly trying to come back into your life. When the people who believed the lies finally realize they were manipulated, they are going to feel guilty. They might try to slide into your DMs or text you to check in, hoping to clear their own conscience. You do not owe them a seat back at your table. If they lacked the discernment to see your true character in the first fort, they do not have the security clearance to access your new chapter. You can forgive them from a distance, but you are a highly protected, profoundly elevated chosen one. You are not a rehabilitation center for people who entertain gossip about you. You survived the absolute worst of the fire. You took the hits, you felt the sting of the betrayal, and you kept your mouth shut when every ounce of your flesh wanted to fight back. And because of that incredible discipline, you get to sit entirely untouched while the universe serves your enemies the exact plate of humiliation they spent months cooking for you. I want to know if you have started seeing the cracks in their stories. Has a mutual friend recently reached out to you, apologizing because they finally realized the toxic person was completely unhinged? Have you noticed the awkward silence when their lies stop adding up? Put your stories in the comments below. Let's document exactly how the truth always, inevitably, outruns a lie. Stand incredibly tall today. The narrative has officially flipped, and your peace is the absolute loudest victory of them all.